Welcome to the Reality Revolution. Today is a fantastic day on the Reality Revolution. We get Quasi Joe here back. If anybody has checked out our previous interview, a long time ago, at the very beginning of my podcast, Quasi, who is already huge, gave me an opportunity to interview him. And so I owe like a bunch of my success to Quasi because people are like, oh yeah, who's this dude? So, and the coolest thing is I actually got a chance to meet Quasi. He lives on the East Coast, but one time he was down in California. I get a text, next thing you know, 20 minutes later, we're eating this great Mexican dinner and I got to meet his beautiful wife. And so it's like Quasi's more just a guest. He's a very good friend of mine, and I really, really respect and appreciate his work. It always comes from an authentic and personal level. That you have a genuine care to help people. And lately his channel has transformed beyond what it had kind of started at when we first interviewed, and he's really helping entrepreneurs out, people with small businesses. His reality mastery course is fantastic. And so welcome to the Reality Revolution. So glad you're here, man.
Thank you for having me again. The first time was a blast, and yeah, I do. I totally remember that one time we met up. I still owe you a meal, by the way.
Hey, it was all good. It was worth it. So, and we had a really great conversation then. Every time we talk, we do. We have mutual interests. If you check out both of our channels, you'll see a lot of discussion of reality shifting and identity shifting. And it's something that we both believe as a manner and means in creating a reality. And Quasi is a great example of that. You've taken a lot of these concepts. You hear a lot of people on YouTube and it's all talk. But Quasi's gone and taken these concepts and applied it in his life. He has an incredible business that's super successful. And you've actively worked on your subconscious in some unique ways. So I just want to say, from our last interview, how has your understandings of the law of attraction, reality creation, reality shifting changed for you from all the way back then?
It's such a great question because the last time we did an interview, that was a lifetime ago.
It was a
It was what,
lifetime. It
like
was a year and a
more than a
half.
year ago, right?
Yeah, and we were talking about Tufti and the Platte and some other stuff back then. So,
Right.
but
That stuff is still all the more relevant today. But I guess the biggest change for me was taking it in a different direction. Back then, if you looked at my energy, it was all over the place. I was looking at, how you can get your dream body, how you can manifest your dream relationship, this, and this, and every single thing. And then what happened was, as I started to go on this journey, I started to figure out better, like what it is I wanted to do and who it is I wanted to work with, what I'm actually passionate about. And then I landed on entrepreneurship and business owners and helping them grow. Because for me, it's just like I get a kick out of seeing something, like building something and growing something and just making little incremental progress every single day. And for me, that was always the last piece, by the way, because that's the thing that came last. I had the
right.
relationships. I did well in college. I had a great social life. All of those things fell in place, gym wise, health wise, everything went well. But for me, a big limitation, a big limiting belief for me was money. Okay. And that was something that was ingrained in me, as a child. And I would always revolt and be like, oh, money is for evil people. The rich are evil. I had this huge limiting belief. So I was like, I'm just going to be a scientist and, live like a hermit and just make discoveries. And that's why I studied like engineering in college.
Right.
And I'll just live like a life and make enough money to get by. But deep down, I knew I was suppressing something, because I really wanted to make money. The reason I said like, and had all of these beliefs is because I didn't think I could do it. So it felt okay to give myself an excuse of the rich are evil. So that's something I had to overcome throughout the years.
Well, one of the things about your path that I really wanted to explore, because everything you're talking about, we both experience on our videos. When we talk about making money, you get those people that come into the comments or email you later that money is so evil. And there's they're very, very voracious about, I can't believe you're one of those dudes that's just trying to make money and money is terrible and it's anti-spiritual. But then as you and I are in the same boat, you have people come that you want to coach. And one of the most popular thing for someone that wants to be coached is help me to make some money. So almost every time when we break down somebody's life day by day, what their true desires are, they might be able to go and get a job somewhere and make some money, make a pretty good salary, but it will never give them the satisfaction. They could make $400,000 at some, corporation, right? And I've even talked to people that are on the brink of that. But when we really break it down, for us to truly take advantage of reality creation and have the freedom and really want to do what you want, you can't really work a 9 to 5 corporate job or anything. Like, they're tied together. Like,
Yeah.
if you really want to start to have the ability to constantly take advantage of reality creation, you can't be dependent on a specific salary or what is your, because there is a specific link. If I start talking about that aspect of it with a client, that's what it really comes down to: starting your own business, becoming an entrepreneur. There's a spirituality to it almost, right?
100%. I think entrepreneurship totally has been the biggest test. The biggest like growth in spirituality for me has come from immersing myself in this journey, because it's like the biggest self-help test you can go through. Just going out there and
It
trying
is.
to build up your own business and creating your own quote unquote pendulum, right?
Right.
So that's something you'll just, because everything you're responsible for everything. If you get paid this month, you're responsible. If you don't get paid
Everything.
this month, you're responsible. Everything relies on you. At the same time, I don't think entrepreneurship is for everyone, and it's not
Right.
necessary for you to go into entrepreneurship, because if you are working for a company and you truly believe in the vision and you want to make that vision a reality, there's nothing wrong with that, as long as you
Right.
don't feel like you're a slave to it. Even in the instance of being an entrepreneur, right? You're just arbitrarily setting up your own hours of work, but you're
That's
still
true.
you're still going and doing this work, and you're still having to rely on a source of this income, which is aka your clients,
Right.
right? As opposed to a paycheck. So it's still the same principle, but it's just in a different way. It shows itself. So if you're really passionate about it and you have a unique vision, the reason people innovate and start up businesses is because you can't find what they're wanting to create,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that doesn't exist yet. And that's why entrepreneurs go out and be like, well, it doesn't exist, I'll just go out and make it. And that's when a business is born.
One deep belief I get a lot, you might have experienced too, is I don't have any money, I can't start a business. There's this belief that is so deep for a lot of people that really want to become entrepreneurs, that they need to have money to start their business.
Hmm.
And in reality, you really don't. There's so many success stories. It is possible for a lot of people out there watching that are listening. You might have even turned off this interview right now. Like, I've always wanted to do that. That's my dream. I don't have $10,000 to start a business,
Right.
right? You get that, right? And it's like, no, you don't even need $10,000 to start a business, right?
Yeah. I mean, those who look for an excuse are always going to find one, right?
Right.
Because they're just looking, just like me, they're looking for an excuse to justify why they're not able to do it. It's like they're
Right.
looking for a reason to close down that door, as opposed to taking responsibility for where they are in life and where they actually want to go and owning up to that. I really want this, but the reason I'm not able to get this is because of me, not because, oh, I don't have enough money to do this. You could just go out there and save up enough money and work till you do save up that money. That's even more
Right.
respectable than just complaining about how you don't have money, right?
Right.
So it's just like it's about getting to that realization that you're always going to be bitter unless you follow your own path, unless you own up to where you are and where it is you want to go.
I
Mm.
agree with that. One of the things that you're best about, especially since we last spoke, is the subconscious. It's this strange creature that it's hard to tame. We think we can do it one way, but we end up making things worse. And clearly, your interest in it is because you had to tame the same creature at some point in time. Your subconscious was affecting your business, your life, whatever it is, right? Tell me a little more about that.
What we call as the subconscious, it's like from what I've been studying and what I've been really learning, what we're really referring to when we talk about the subconscious is the unconscious mind, right?
Right.
Because 5% of your mind is conscious. The other 5% is subconscious. The rest of it consists of the unconscious and the collective unconscious. It's just a different way of
Right.
calling all of these terms. What is really familiar to us is just the conscious mind and the subconscious, or that which is not conscious, whether you
Right.
call it subconscious or whether you call it unconscious. So in that sense, what happens is you sort of pick up these things around you that you get exposed to, and you start repeating them, and you start putting emotion in them, and then it just becomes something. Oh, this is just the way it is.
Right.
Going to a 9 to 5, getting a degree, that's just the way it is. That what? Nothing else can exist. But the
Right.
moment you find out that something else can exist, that's when you're fucked, right? That's like, oh
Right.
shit, my world has just been shattered. Wait, I can be an entrepreneur and travel the world and make 20 grand a month, 50 grand a month doing what I love? That's
Right.
crazy. I thought I had to, be stuck at a 9 to 5 until I'm 60 and just completely exhaust myself, hate myself. And then at 60, when I retire, my life begins.
Right.
So it's just exploring all of these things and just becoming a little bit open, taking apart all of these programs. Because what happens is the program is like up in our faces. It's like a lens, but you can't see that you're wearing glasses. You're just seeing. You're seeing through the glasses. You can't look at the glasses. So
Right.
that's what this unconscious programming was, for me at least, right? And overcoming that, the first step of it was looking head on at these glasses. And just once you notice the glasses, now you can take them off.
Right. And so what I was from following what you say is there is a kind of a difference for some people. Just doing affirmations or affirmations can actually make things worse, right? And so you have a way of teaching how to use affirmations with an understanding of that unconscious. Can you explain to us a little better? Because a lot, I have popular videos with affirmations, but a lot of times people will just start doing affirmations and they're not going at it about understanding their subconscious, the way it
100%.
really works.
What I've noticed from working with so many clients, Brian, is it really depends on the individual person,
Right.
right? For someone, affirmations are going to be awesome, but for other people, it's not going to work at all. So
Mhm.
it's about catering to the individual person, because different people are different consciousness levels. So to the hyper rational person, they're not going to be willing to accept. Their mind is no way going to be
Mhm.
willing to accept affirmations, and they're going to look at it like, oh, this is bullcrap. This doesn't work. But for someone who's more faith-based, someone who's more simple, that's why it's so much like people who are just simple-minded, they experience miracles much more.
They
You
do.
know, hyper rational people have to live within the confines of their minds.
Yeah.
Right. And that's why it's much easier. It's much more difficult for them to break that shell, that cocoon of their existence, to experience these miracles, to experience the things that are outside of this.
Mhm.
So that's why affirmations work for some people and they don't work for others. But also on top of that, the affirmation itself, it's an act, right? It's an action. It's an activity.
Right.
The activity itself is just what you do. The way I look at it, there are 3 different levels of it. The goal is to have something, but in order to have it, you've got to do it. But this doingness won't be effective until it comes from a certain place of being. Unless you're on the frequency of what it is you want at the level of your being, the doingness will never be aligned, right? So you've
Right.
got to look at the final thing that you want in your life, what it is, who it is you want to be, what it is you want to do, and what things do you want to have. How can you become that version right now?
Right.
And once you live from the end right now, that's when your external reality starts to slowly restructure itself to lead you to that goal. So that's really what identity shifting is in a nutshell. Your internal reality must come first. You must have the conviction and the assumption. You must make those first, and then everything else will follow. To give you an example of that, we have every single client of ours who've really broken out of the 9 to 5 and have had successful businesses, they've always made an uncomfortable leap first. They
Right.
made the leap on an assumption that, somehow my business is going to thrive. and they've just taken that leap of faith and quit their 9 to 5 and just gone full
Mhm.
stretch into their businesses. This is what I did as well, by the way.
Right.
I had a job lined up for me after college, and I was supposed to go full time into a cushy, 5 grand per month, 60 grand a year salary as an
Right.
engineering intern. And I was like, you know what? To hell with that. I'm just going to go and try to build up my business that I have maybe generated 1 to 2K a month from, barely. Right. And
Mhm.
the month of May that I graduated, I was supposed to go into the job. I made nothing. And even though that rattled me, there was still like a little bit of faith there in that final destination that I had in my mind, aka me being vibrationally aligned to that final lifeline.
Right. It's so true. It's like if you put a little circle about all the things that you want to do, um, whatever it is you want, it's going to be right outside that comfort circle, that circle of it always requires some little bit that's a little bit uncomfortable. Whatever I mean, I've said that whatever you want, it's going to be just beyond that wall of discomfort. There's that little bit. And it's odd. A lot of times it's not as bad as we thought, but there's that there's and it's for everything. You can literally put it into anything that we're talking about. Now, I wanted to ask you, because I had the honor to meet your beautiful wife. And so, did you use any of these principles, techniques, ideas before meeting her?
Of
Or am I
course.
going to get you in trouble?
They were honestly, I never really look at it as me using a technique or me using a gimmick to get
Right.
something. It's more so I'm living my life according to these principles, and whatever happens just happens.
Exactly.
It's not me being like, oh, I'm the cause of this and this is the effect. But there's just
Right.
innumerable amounts of causes and innumerable amounts of effects that you can never really tell like what is what. It's just you align yourself to it, somehow the universe makes it work.
Right.
One day I walked into the train and in Boston, it's called the T, it's the tram. I
Mhm.
walked in and there she was, and for some reason I just had to go up to her and talk to her. Right? She was wearing headphones. I was like, "Can you take your headphones off?" And I just struck up a conversation with her, and now like a couple years later we're married.
It's amazing. But what you said is also an obsession on YouTube, is the idea that, oh, that's to go for the specific person. But what you experienced is what I think is the best. The person that you truly want to be with is a lot of times going to be this random encounter or event or thing will happen. Just let it flow. Don't get obsessed with one person out there, uh, because that might not be the best for you, right?
100%. Yeah. And the reason why like specific person manifestations more often than not don't work is because of the importance that you give this person, right? It
Right.
just wasn't meant to be. It's like an ego game that's going on. It's like, oh, I have to get this person because I can't get this person. And because I can't get this person, I want this person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, then it becomes a game, like you said, of techniques. When really you'll never get the love of your life with any technique. It can't, it doesn't come from that, at least in my small experience, my window onto reality. So,
For
um,
sure.
but so as I go back and some of the stuff we've already floated about and we've talked about, the amazing thing is some of these, we've started to take these techniques that we were talking about a year and a half ago, and we've kind of seen it kind of meld into our own and experimented with it. So I want to revisit a couple different things. I want to talk about pendulums. We've just been through one of the craziest election cycles, the media, thousands of different social media going on, constant vowing for our attention. One of the things that you and I agreed on and was the concept of the pendulum, that that once that's a game changer, understanding the way the pendulum takes your energy and how it influences you and motivates you. But now that we've had that understanding, knowing what they were, still we've had to live and integrate ourselves within it, because within those pendulums money is to be made. And sometimes we can use the pendulum to our advantage, or as you said, create a pendulum. So let's expand, let's go on an advanced level course. Now that we have got to experiment and play around with the pendulum for the last year, what are your newest impressions?
Yeah, as I was saying, what I've come to realize about pendulums, like this year especially, is that we're in the age of conspiracy theories, right? You'll find a
Mhm.
conspiracy theory under your pillow if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
And this all like got exacerbated by COVID, 9/11,
Hmm.
any little thing, any little bombing that's happening or whatever it is that's happening, the new world order or whatever you want to call it. I think this is probably going to piss some people off because they're harsh believers in that,
Right.
right? But everything can be a conspiracy if you look at it that way, but that kind of thing can really drive you nuts,
Hmm.
right? So it's like reality responds to it. It's like a mirror, right? It'll respond to whatever you're looking for. If you think the atom is a particle, it's going to respond as a particle. If you think it's a wave, it's going to respond as a wave.
Hmm.
So whatever you're looking for, you're going to find. The mind just looks for ways so that things can conform to its hypothesis that it creates.
Right.
So in terms of these pendulums, they're going to be all around you all the time. There's no real way to free yourself from pendulums unless you actually get enlightened, the way I see it, at least.
Hmm.
And it's just about how you use these pendulums. If you get controlled by destructive pendulums and they run your life, they suck your energy, and where you're actually giving your energy to your constructive pendulums, the creative pendulums. If the pendulums align with your goal, for example, you merge with an organization that kind of contributes to your longer term goal, then that's great.
Right.
But if you get sucked into some destructive pendulum because you think there's no other choice, just know that there's always a choice. You just made the one that doesn't serve you because you weren't really looking.
Right.
That's how I like to view it, at least.
Yeah. Have you noticed this phenomenon though? Now that we understand that pendulums work, is the pendulum vampire. It's like my friend who's a comedian. Like there's certain people that when they're in a group setting, they just get huge energy from the group. Maybe it's a football coach or a rock star or certain people, a politician. They start feeding off the energy of the group. It's almost like it's this other thing. We know that pendulums equal energy. Some people have learned how to ignore, not give their energy, but really take the energy from it. Have you seen this phenomenon in action? Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
I do. It's kind of like a rock star, and everyone's cheering on the rock star, right?
Right.
I think that's what you mean.
It is very much.
Got it.
Some people, once they get a touch or taste of that, they feed off the group. And we get a lot of group pendulums that are formed just for an individual out there that's addicted to that energy in a lot of ways, so.
Yeah. It's
But
like the pendulum will always find a way to make you shine. If you follow your own path, it'll find a way to make you shine. I don't
True.
know if it's the individual person using the pendulum's energy or the individual is free from the pendulum's grasp, so they have more free
Right.
energy available for them. It could be either or, really.
Right. But there's certainly, we're at a rudimentary understanding. It's certainly something that deserves further discussion on larger levels, because I really
100%.
like with that. It's like one of those, it's a super basic concept, but there's much more. I think some of these pendulums are conscious, independently conscious, and some aren't. I think that there can be a difference made from them. And the other thing I wanted to talk about, after a year, have you continued to use the plate? Have you continued to experiment with it? How is your using it? Everybody I talk to has a little bit, they'll use it in the bathtub. They'll use it next to a tree. They always feel it between their shoulder blades. So now that we've had a little bit of time to work on this, what is your impressions of the plat?
I still use the plat to this day.
Right.
But how I use it is I just use it throughout daily life. Like whenever I feel like visualizing something, whenever I feel like creating a target slide or, a process, whatever it is I'm doing, I'll use the plat to visualize it. And there's always like a success rate with it. It's not like immediate, but what'll happen is I'll look for, let's say, to give you an example, I'll want to do like a $10,000 day in the business, right? And I'll visualize like with the plat, a $10,000 day. It won't happen today, but a week later on a Monday, I'll have a $10,000 day. It's like, oh, this is kind of delayed. So it goes to show that, it's kind of like, it's a delayed, the mirror responds with a delay. But what I've really seen in terms of like the most effective form of manifestation is when you focus on something and you hold it in your mind and then you defocus. The defocusing process really allows the universe without interruption to make your order. And what I've started to realize is also that whenever you go to, let's say, a barbershop, right?
Right.
And you're getting a haircut, you tell the barber what you want. And the most ineffective thing you can do is every 2 seconds interrupt the man from cutting your hair. Like, no, I don't want it this way. At the beginning, you show him a picture of what you want, and that's it. That's the best thing you can do. Look, I want it like this, make me look like this, or something similar to this. The best thing you can actually do is provide him with a picture of yourself. That's what I've found, as opposed to someone else. And then when he's cutting your hair, don't interrupt him every 2 seconds. Because I used to do that. I'm like, oh no, maybe he's not doing this right. Because this is how the mind is, right? It's like, oh no, things aren't going my way. Please don't let that happen, and don't let this happen. And the universe is like, well, you place an order. Let me prepare it. This is the way of me preparing your order. You have to go through a little bit of hardship with what you and your limited mind perceives as hardship in order for you to arrive at something greater. So we just don't really see that because we're stuck to our comfort zone, as you mentioned, our little circle.
Right. I just love that. That is like the coolest example. I have not heard that one before, and it works so well as a metaphor, because really it's so true. I mean, once you put your order in, I think that 90% of what we were visualizing, we're immediately messing it up all the time. That the defocusing period is crucial. It is essential. Absolutely, 100%. Now, as an identity shifting master, when somebody asks me, how long do I need to stay in the identity? Should I be like an actor? Should I stay there all day? Should I stay within, should I shift into that identity half the time? Is it something I need to do 24/7, or can I shift identities for smaller periods of time with any success?
The very place that question comes from shows me there's a misconception about identity shifting. The most effective way of shifting your identity is not trying to become someone else. It's about removing all of the unnecessary things, untrue things that have been created about you, and just becoming more authentically you. That's what we do in Reality Mastery with identity shifting. Because what happens is you have these certain desires, right? But you've just been conditioned to not experience these desires and just be stuck with those pendulums and all of those things around you. So you've been conditioned by society to do as I do, go to the 9 to 5, get a degree, have a family, a wife and some kids, retire at 60. This is what you're supposed to do. Watch the news, get paranoid. That's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
And, don't start a business. 99% of businesses fail or whatever.
Right.
And because of that, you're never really able to pursue your own path. And identity shifting is more about removing those false conditionings. And what essence remains is really you. That's what will align you to your goal anyways. Because if you remove the false conditionings, that's just enough. If you remove the clouds, the sun is free to shine forth. So that's what the process of identity shifting really is. There's no thing about, oh, how long do I have to stay in this identity? It should be you at your default. You shouldn't have to think about it. It's just who you are.
And I get that question, and I agree with you. It is a misunderstanding. Now, when I look at Frederick Dotson, he's saying you can move to another city, another house. You can change your name. You can literally forget everything about who you were before. And to me, that's when people are, that's when it's really effective. That's a big jump for a lot of people to make, right?
Yeah. Getting a haircut, all of those things they're awesome, but they're just like surface level changes. They're just gimmicks. But the real change, the real shift needs to happen when you find yourself internally and you find out what it is you actually want. Or else you'll just be trying out these different fads, and as the season goes by, you'll try out something new and another new thing, but you'll never really find what it is you're looking for.
Because there is the long-haired version of Quasi.
Yeah.
If anybody goes to the YouTube channel, and there is the living in Boston version of Quasi. Now you live in Florida. Was that part? I mean, did you notice a little bit of an identity shift from moving a large area. It's something I'm a big believer in, that I've seen myself. It's like the ultimate definition of changing states. Like you change a state. Right.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. If you change your environment, everything's going to change,
Right.
right? The best way to, I suppose, make an identity shift, the most impactful way is about changing your whole environment, your whole surroundings, making a big shift. Even if you just like change the layout of your room. This is why
Right.
feng shui is so huge. I have a client who makes a shit ton of money and get his clients awesome results by feng shui. Teaches
Right.
them how
Right.
to rearrange their furniture.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that 100%. We've all experienced that. You have the dirty, your house is dirty. You change the TV, you move the couch around to the other side, and then boom, you change.
Yeah.
Um, Even when I recently cleaned my office, it was a big change. But I think our thoughts are in our environment, in everything, in the walls, in the paintings, in the books that we carry around. So if we're always in the same house and we're trying to change our identity, uh, it's going to be tough because our identity is everywhere that we see. So there may be something to completely moving and changing where you live. Right.
Yeah. Well, I've found a powerful thing to powerful activity that aids this process of becoming more authentically you is every single day doing something uncomfortable, something that you wouldn't
Oh, I
normally
love
do.
that. Yeah.
You know, like if you wake up early and your body doesn't want you to wake up early and you just go against what your body wants for once, right?
Right.
It's going to completely change you. And
Right.
then you wake up and you take that cold shower even though you don't want to. That's going to
Right.
change you as well. And
Yeah.
then you sort of go to, take a different route to work, or you talk to that stranger that you've been meaning to talk to, something uncomfortable. That's just going to expand your worldview more and more and help you facilitate that process of you becoming that version of yourself you want it to be.
I see that with CEO. When I love to read CEOs biographies, and you read about Jack Dorsey, Aubrey Marcus, some of these guys, they're constantly doing that. They're doing stuff that's uncomfortable. If part of you doesn't want to wake up at 7 o'clock, you wake up at 6 o'clock every day, and you dominate yourself in a little way, kind of. You are you, but you're battling this other part of you that's tired or lazy or doesn't want to do anything, right?
Hmm.
So it's we all want to feel good all the time, but a lot of times to really feel good, we have to do something uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Discipline equals freedom, right?
Right. I mean, it was probably uncomfortable when you went up and talked to your wife. There was like a little party that said, I don't know if I should do this, right? But I mean, I think that happens for all of us, for anything that we do. So, but um has there been any other discoveries that you've had, any other things that we've talked about that we haven't discussed so far that you've added into your daily ritual? I think the ritual is a good test. If something's really working, you find yourself doing it more and more. Even physical exercise, have you found any ways of utilizing or integrating physical exercise into your routine that have kind of like upgraded your situation?
Yeah. The new discovery that I've had this year was more about removing things as opposed to adding
Hmm.
more things. Because I found myself at one point like having a 2 hour morning routine, right?
Right.
And it just wasn't effective for me to do work because I'll just spend the whole day doing a morning routine, and there's less time available for me to do the things I actually needed to do in order to move forward.
Right.
So I've just learned to eliminate all of these complexities, because you see all of these entrepreneurs and all these coaches with like a million different products, and they can't really handle it. They don't have the capacity to handle and ensure customer satisfaction, all of their different products. And it's just driving them nuts. They don't have a moment's peace. So what I've found is that I don't mind spending money. I'll spend money and get the best equipment, invest in the best coaches, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, no problem. But when it comes to my time, I'm super stingy with that.
Right. Right.
Anything that takes up more time, because your energy is limited, your time here is limited as well.
I agree with that 100%. So, well, it's always so much fun to talk with you, brother. And I'm sure that as soon as I'm done, I'm going to remember, 10 or 12 different things that we could talk about. But everybody needs to check out Quasi's channel. 2 or 3 times a week, you have new video, right?
Yeah, twice a week.
Twice a week. And there has been some great interviews you've had with entrepreneurs and some detailed discussions of the subconscious. And you're one of my favorite gurus, if you want to call you that, or whatever it is we want to refer to Quasi as. And the amazing thing is when I got to meet you in person, you were on the next level. A lot. You're not even talking about some of the stuff you're really thinking about. We were talking about Sadhguru for a while in that conversation, and I think about you often when I'm reading Sadhguru, going over stuff like I wonder what Quasi thinks about this. There's so much that that your stuff has really brought to us. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you so much.
Dude, thank you for having me on the channel again. And it's been a pleasure speaking with you again. You should come visit in Florida.
I'm down. We're going to go. It's happening for sure. Once everything clears up, which will be very soon. So
yeah, hopefully.
We'll see what happens, but it's always good to see you, and welcome to the Reality Revolution. Well, welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm just really excited today because this is the first day that my book is released. This is it, the Reality Revolution. Worked on this for a very long time. So many of the things that I discovered along the way, and I was excited to share it with everybody. Tell you a little bit about it. I'm like everybody else. I'm interacting in the world and starting to realize that my thoughts created reality. As I did this, I started to see some major shifts in my reality. I started to explore the idea of maneuvering through parallel realities. I'm your host, Brian Scott.